changing the way we think and how we live our lives is one step in the right direction.
Welcome to Be Well Berkshires. I am your host, Jim Willis. I am the administrator of the Be Well Berkshires Community Initiative. Be Well Berkshires is a mass emotion initiative that is designed to promote policies and programs to foster healthier lifestyles. What does that mean? Well, it means that we want you to eat better, move more, and be well. The format of this show is to speak with community members on what's going on in our community regarding health and wellness activities and to bring that information to you. I want to introduce you to my guest today, who may not need any formal introduction, Paul Masiero, co-owner of Baba Louie's. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you. And speaking of healthy dining, you've been part of the our Mass in Motion Healthy Dining program even before we started working with the city of Pittsfield. And tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to invest in Pittsfield, and why it's important to you to offer healthier dining choices.
Sure. I went to school at the Culinary Institute of America, and there it was all about fine cuisine and healthy eating and good food. Mm-hmm. And through my whole life, being brought up in an Italian family, it was all about food. Everything was centered around food, and my mom was a stay-home cook and stay-home mom, and she cooked fabulous dinners. And right from the beginning of when I was born, I was always eating healthy, and my whole family always ate healthy. So when I came out to the Berkshires, my brothers opened up a fruit and produce market called Guido's, which offers a lot of healthy options. And from there, I started working for them, and then one thing led to another, and I just got invested into Pittsfield by working in the area, and decided to buy a restaurant in the area, and then that kind of prompted me to continue with the healthy dining.
Yeah, our healthy dining program started roughly around 2008, and it took a while to really start that momentum shift, to really get the restaurants to sort of buy into the program. And it's a free initiative. It was a free program that was designed, looking at trying to get restaurants to do something that wasn't mandated, something that was voluntary, to at least offer healthier food choices. And I remember, if I can pick like 4 or 5 restaurants, that signed on early on, you were one of those 4 or 5. And, it takes leadership to really step up and make a move like that. And I think sort of it goes to the, if you build it, they shall come.
Right.
And I tell you, and I think we have over 30 plus restaurants now.
That's great.
That have signed on to the healthy dining program. And I think a couple of years ago, we created this healthy dining video because we were, I won't say struggling, but there's just a lot of restaurants around, and people are going to offer what's most popular to them because they are a business. And if people are coming in, they want the burgers, they want the fries, and
absolutely,
the 900 calorie portion of potatoes. People are gonna. We understand it's a business, but trying to promote healthier food choices. So we created a video about a year ago.
I remember, yep.
And we highlighted maybe 3 or 4 restaurants. And you were part of that, so we thank you for taking the time out of that. And maybe as we dive into the healthy dining options program, why it's important to you and why it's important to the community, maybe what we can do is we can show the 4-minute video of our healthier dining options that promotes healthier food choices. So folks, take a look at the video, and we'll return in a moment.
Offering healthy dining options is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Step 1, create your own healthy options.
Step 2, sign up for the program.
Step 3, reap the benefits of the healthy dining program.
Customers are going into restaurants, food stores, and they're asking for healthier choices. In response to the national obesity and overweight issues, I think people are starting to really recognize that they want to do the right thing, or at least have that option to choose the right meal wherever they're going out.
We would not be in business but for the fact that we cater to our patrons' dietary needs and preferences. If a customer tells us they can't eat salt, they can't eat sugar, they can't eat wheat, they can't eat dairy, we're going to find a way to accommodate them.
It's worked out really well. I mean, it's been almost 10 years, and people really enjoy it, and the fact that everything's so fresh, You know, the flavors really blend well together. And we take a lot of time and try to create the menus that have that combination.
It was just the logical menu without consciously thinking about healthy dining options. But another part of it is that my husband is a vegetarian and has been for a long time, so I'm always thinking about, is there something he can eat where we're going?
I think that people today are becoming more aware of what they're putting in their bodies, and the use of GMO, genetically modified organisms, in our food system, and the way that corn is in every food product. I mean, people are really becoming aware of what it's doing to them, and it's all about what we put in our bodies.
Our clients appreciate it, and they really appreciate the fact that we do almost all of our dishes available as half portions or full portions. So they don't feel obliged to eat more than they want to. They don't get presented with a huge plate of food and feel bad they can't finish it. And on my side, it's nice because they have room for dessert. So
I'm sure some people are coming in choosing them because, okay, this is healthier for me. But more of it, I think, is people are more eclectic in their tastes about food. And so they're coming in seeing a bean burger on the menu thinking, maybe I'll try that.
Anything that we can make here, we do. From salad dressings, all of our breads and baked products are from scratch. Breakfast items, we make our own sausage, corned beef hash. It's really what we take pride in doing.
My mom and dad took a lot of pride in that, and they brought us up in that way, and it just translated right through my whole career that's how you want to eat. You want to eat fresh, healthy, and good.
we would rather they would come here and eat real food, carefully prepared in sensible portions, rather than the convenience foods that are ubiquitous.
And instead of trying to make the most money per ingredient, you make the most customers happy, you'll get more repeat customers, and therefore you'll fill up your restaurant more.
You have other options for your guests. I think that's easy.
These days, people are very cognizant of their health and demand that restaurants provide them with choices, and delicious choices at that.
Changing the way we think and how we live our lives is one step in the right direction. Providing healthy dining options is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Step 1, create your own healthy dining options.
Step 2, sign up for the program.
Step 3, reap the benefits of the healthy dining program.
Welcome back. Thank you for participating in that video.
It's a good video.
I think it sends a lot of important key messages.
It does.
One thing, as we were watching that video again, you mentioned about how it's important to tailor to the customers, and it's not as important as making the most money per ingredient. I mean, is it easy to say that you're getting a lot of people going into your business asking for those healthier food choices, and you're making changes to meet their needs?
It's hard to say in my business because we don't offer the French fries and all that stuff that's you can get at other restaurants, because we're a really simple restaurant, and we already offer salads as our main appetizer. So most people that come in already have the salad.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the option of having French fries.
Which is good.
It's great.
To a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to deal with all the grease and all that stuff that goes with
Exactly.
it. But because one thing we see in the public health world, because part of my full-time job is I work in the health department, and we deal with the allergy issues and the compliance and the regulatory issues there. There's a lot of allergies, and there's a lot of celiac disease out there, and we get calls all the time about what are the regulations that people, restaurants have to adhere to, and I think we're seeing now more than ever all these allergy issues in kids, and I think people are asking a lot of those questions now when they're going into restaurants. They're asking for gluten-free, and there's no cross-contamination, in the cooks in the kitchen, and do you get any requests in your restaurant from that? Like people are concerned about allergies and whatnot?
Yeah, there's a lot of today. There's a lot of concern about allergies, especially the gluten allergy, but even still the peanut allergy and all the nut allergies that are out there. there's just so many. And, you know, if you're a good restaurant, you'll take care of the customer. That's what it boils right down to.
Yeah, it's really it's an ongoing concern. You know, you mentioned something about the GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and you know that's why people are more promoting locally grown farmers markets. And I think there's an interesting niche there. You know, and I think I'm really seeing a lot of restaurants starting to step up to the plate. You know, we talked in another television show about, you know, trying to create these non-financial incentives, and I've really seen restaurants really recognize that, geez, you know, people are coming to my restaurant or eating so much they're going home sick, and then they don't come back. And I'm seeing a lot of restaurants, you know, recognize this. Like, look, we want people eating healthy here. People are going to, you know, if they want to come to your restaurant and get 5 pizzas and eat all 5 pizzas, that's on them.
That's on them.
At least you're preparing things locally grown and fresh, and you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah, every Saturday we go to the farmers market, and all 3 restaurants go to the farmers market in their area. So there's one in Great Barrington, one in Hudson, and the Pittsfield one. And they all go and all the chefs shop in the morning for whatever ingredients they want to prepare for that night, and then we offer it for the weekend. You know, a nice farm to table type of thing. You know, and it's been well supported.
Well,
it's been great.
Good for you for that, because, you know, it's not too often that I hear that. I mean,
yeah,
we have all these.
I would love to see more chefs. The problem is that you're so busy as a chef, you know, preparing for the day, that it's hard to find that half an hour to go to the market. You know, but it's to my wife and I, it's really an important thing. So we allow for that time for the chef to go over there, and we do whatever we have to make it happen.
Well, great for you, for supporting locally grown, and I think, you know, we're all in this together. And, you know, I know something that we've been working on with healthy dining options is trying to figure out ways working with restaurants to, you know, incentivize it, you know, for owners, and, you know, try to increase participation for people going into restaurants, asking those restaurants for healthier food choices. So recently, we kicked off a pilot initiative program, working with you and Karen Rowe, who is the project coordinator for Well Berkshires, and Lauren Pellegrino from Berkshire Community College. And we launched this initial pilot where, for a certain period of time, people went into the restaurant, and if they got healthier food choices, they got a free day pass to, you know, Berkshire Community College. And, you know, for those that haven't seen it, you know, check it out. It's something that we're trying to launch, you know, countywide at get to a certain point. So not only are we supporting local businesses, but we're supporting healthier food choices. We're promoting physical activity.
Mass motion,
So what were your initial? I mean, we're not going to know until we start collecting, you know, the coupons at Berkshire Community College to see how many people are actually taking advantage of these exercise classes.
But that's the neat thing about the program, is that we will see a result, and we'll know what the return was on, you know, the project. So that's neat.
Yeah.
I thought it went really well. You know, it was a lot of positive feedback from it, and I just hope that a lot of them get turned in so we can find a way to incorporate it into more restaurants.
Right, and I think it's really important that, you know, we work, live, and eat in this community, and I think people need to work together to try to figure out ways of incentivizing, you know, healthier food choices and whatnot. And I tell you, we're seeing more and more restaurants signing on to the healthier dining options, and I think it's, you know, restaurants like you and others in South County that laid the foundation, because people, you know, it's a popular place, so people see it, and you know, so, you know, incentives. We were talking about this before, like, how do we create incentives, and how do we convince, like, a business owner to, whether it's a corner store we were talking about in a previous show, and whether it's a restaurant, and any ideas, you know, from your experience from not only the Healthy Dining Options program, but as an owner yourself, you know, what can restaurants do to, you know, make it easier for themselves to offer healthier food choices?
I think the one thing that they have to realize is that that's what their customers are coming to. You know, that's the main idea, is that customers are asking a lot of restaurants for healthier options, and if I think if the public demands it, then the restaurants will follow. You know, so it has to be kind of publicly driven, but the idea has to get into the public's mind to go into the restaurants and say, hey, what else do you have besides fries? You know, can I get a side salad with that? or or a vegetable, or something like something that's healthier than something that's fried.
One thing we hear from restaurants a lot is this, I don't know if it's fact or fiction, but it costs more to purchase healthier ingredients. There's a lower return on investment from healthier ingredients to non-healthy ingredients. What are your, with all your years of experience, is that fact or fiction?
Oh, there is a little bit of fact to it, but I think that you're pinching pennies there.
Yeah,
that's a really tough one. I mean, you can give a big salad, and it looks huge. People come back. Right. So instead of a small plate of fries, you're getting this big salad. Person's going to see the different value in that, and then what you're really trying to do as a restaurateur is to get the person to come back, right? You offer a huge, nice big salad. They were like, wow, that. We put a salad down on the table, and they're like, that's the small salad. It's big. And that right away is value for your money. And if you can get those people to come back, then that's where the problem lies. Is it cheaper to serve French fries than a salad? Probably, but are they going to come back for French fries, or are they going to come back for a really nice salad and be like, wow, that was a great salad, or that was just huge, That's what gets people to come back, is a value for their dollar.
It's a really interesting concept because you're going to give the customer what they want, but you're in a way creating your own incentives to get the customer to come back.
Right.
Most businesses won't last if a customer comes once.
Right.
If they're not feeling good, and they didn't change. My father-in-law's Italian, and he loves the spaghetti and the potatoes and everything. And
right.
He wants that 16-ounce steak for the lowest cost. But then people overeat and they don't feel good, and I think with the fast foods, it's cooked quick.
Yeah.
With probably the cheapest ingredients, and there's not a lot of love that goes into.
There's no love that's going into that. Yeah.
And you're just trying to pump out the numbers to just to serve what you can. And at least with some of these local businesses, they put a lot of heart and passion into their plates.
The fast food joints, it's all about the bottom line. In our restaurant, it's about making the customer happy. Right. And hopefully that'll help grow the bottom line. But that's where we're coming from. We can't. I don't want to just serve any lousy ingredient. You know what I mean? I want my ingredients to be good and good for you and taste good, and everything that we serve goes through a taste test before we accept it. So it's not just like you're getting some, just some olive off the shelf that comes in a can. We wanted to change olives. We tasted like 10 different kinds of olives, before we decided on one, and
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a lot of thought that goes into restaurants that care about, what they're serving.
Yeah, and it's hard because we're in this business to promote health and wellness and changing policies and environmental systems change. We talk about it all the time on our show of how we can become sustainable, how can we get our community healthy and well, and I think businesses play a big part in that. But I think we also recognize that businesses are businesses, and you have to tailor to meet the needs of the customer. So in a way, we're doing this dual, policy where we're working with restaurants, at the same time working with the community, and try to convince the community to go into your restaurant and other restaurants to ask for those healthier food choices that then, create that tipping point. And I see it getting easier and easier. We're getting more restaurants involved, and I think farmers markets, and I know GMOs, genetically modified organisms. We're seeing a lot of movement on that. I mean, we're even seeing legislation being drafted up in Boston on how to deal with that. Do you have any sense on what GMOs are, like why are they bad for the viewers that may not know anything about GMOs?
Well, because it's not the way that food was intended to be grown. Right. 50, 60 years ago, there was really no problem with eating wheat. A lot of people didn't have an allergy to wheat, or they could eat the gluten, but now that the way that wheat is mass produced, it's harmful to the body, and the body doesn't know how to process these genetically modified organisms, and so that's where the sensitivities and the celiacs and all that stuff comes into play.
Yeah, and and I think we're seeing a lot of allergies. We're seeing a lot
because of these modified.
We're still seeing many forms of cancers. With all the billions of dollars of research that we've spent, on research on not just cancer, but anything that prevention of chronic disease, it really comes down to food.
I think so.
What's the one common thing that we do every single day in order to survive? We eat.
We eat.
And I think the food chain is very complex. We see more and more recalls.
Yeah.
We're seeing salmonella cases and some of these large produce farms, and
Exactly.
Even with fresh shellfish. By the time they harvest it and they package it and they label it and they get it to the restaurant, you're talking 7-10 days later.
Right.
And that's why I think more and more businesses are trying to do more locally grown, because it's easier. They know where it came from. Something were to happen, at least we could trace it back to a certain way. But it's really concerning. But yeah, it's a breath of fresh air to see businesses recognize that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's legislation being drafted on GMOs, so I think people are starting to take notice on what they're putting in their bodies, and I think it's really important.
Oh, it is. It's super important. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that eat within 100 miles of your living where you live is huge, because it doesn't have to be transported and trucked and preserved and all that. It's not even a day away.
Yeah.
If it's just 100 miles, it's a couple hours away from where you're growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a few more minutes left, and any good messages you could, if we have a viewer that's a restaurant owner that wants to offer healthier dining options, but doesn't know how, you can always contact us and we can help you through that process.
Right.
But from a restaurateur to another restaurateur, any messages you could send to any of the businesses that are interested in offering some type of healthier food choices from your perspective?
That it's not as hard as you think it is. Yeah. It's easy, to offer the salad or the vegetable instead of the fried food. It's everybody looks at it as a lot of work, but it's really once the program's in place in your establishment, it's actually quite easy.
Yeah, but I'm sure it could probably get challenging if you have a robust menu that's 10 pages long. And one thing we've always encouraged, we were never promoting the healthier dining options to have the owners pay money to redo their entire menu.
Right.
We've always encouraged sleeves. We've created some sleeves to throw in there. When they do a turnaround in their menu to maybe market the healthier food choices a lot better. I am seeing a lot more restaurants offering more, apple slice. I mean, even the fast food restaurants are offering apple slices now. With that's becoming popular with the calorie counting and so on and so forth. But I think one of the consistent messages we get is restaurants think it's too hard.
Yeah.
They have to change their whole menu around. They have to train their staff, and it's just too complex. And what you're saying is it's not that hard.
It's not that hard. Yeah. Once you get the plan in place, it's really simple. And educating your staff is really not that difficult. I mean, you want an educated staff anyway, because they're going to get more repeat business and they're going to get better tips, and you're going to see your bottom line grow anyway. So you should have an educated staff, and you should be wanting to have that person come back for a salad instead of a French fries or whatever the fried food is. It's not that hard.
We're always picking on the fast food restaurants, and I think they try, and that's what this.
I think that they're trying to change.
So.
It's just the volume that they do. They have to have so much food on hand that there's preservatives in it. So there's it's not like they're getting shipments every day like smaller restaurants are.
Yeah, and all types of restaurants are allowed to join the Healthy Dining Options program, and because we inspect the restaurants from a health department perspective, and one thing that we talk about is sustainability, because we get grant funding to work on this healthier dining options program and some of the other walkability stuff. And one thing that we've been able to do down in South County is we've actually incorporated the healthier dining options program into the routine health department inspections. So it's not they see the health inspector come, they're not running away anymore. It's like we're actually in the, so we have to do our job too to make sure we're meeting compliance with the code and whatnot. But one thing we've been able to work on down in South County is really come up with a sustainability perspective. Hey, look at, make sure you're hand washing, do this, do that, and oh, by the way, here's the healthier dining program. Here, if you're interested, let us know.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
And one thing, we're getting a lot of good feedback from the owners saying we're not used to the health department to come in here and talk health and wellness.
Yeah.
And really, and I think that's something we're working on in Pittsfield and some of the other
Are you
locations.
going to start doing that?
Well, hopefully, yeah. It's not easy because it's, there's a lot going on, and it's, you're trying to do as many inspections as you possibly can.
It's a lot bigger,
We try to sit down with them, but it's something, it's been working pretty well, and we get a lot of feedback from owners like, well, we're just not used to the health department coming and talking health and wellness. So it's not always about code compliance and whatnot, but Paul, it's really, I know you're crazy busy. You have 3 different locations. You've been doing really well. I thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Taking the time out of your day to stop over and talk about from your perspective.
I think it's important, so I'm happy to stop and talk.
How can people get a hold of you, Paul?
babalouis.com.
Pretty simple.
Pretty easy, yeah.
So yeah, well, thanks again. Check out Paul's place and other places as well with all the healthier dining choices. Thank you for tuning in once again. My name is Jim Willis. I am your host of Well Berkshires. Thank you and good day.